All right, good morning. It is episode 52 of the Schulte cast. We are waking up to a Woj bomb. Monroe getting hockey. Is that going to fly? We'll talk about that. More LSU Tigers into the portal. I haven't seen any Cajuns baseball players in the portal. That doesn't mean that there isn't, but so let's talk about the big story. And, I don't know how many people around here care about it, but I'm looking at it from a different point of view. So we're all waking up to Adrian Wojnarowski telling us that the Lakers are targeting Danny Hurley from UConn. And this kind of feels like, a Nick Saban type retiring domino effect. And so now I'm going to go back because I remember I used to know it off the top of my head when it happened. All of the coaches that moved on because of that one retirement. So, right, Gary Gilmore was telling us it was chaos because the players are moving around. Let's find out how much chaos it happens if Danny Hurley ends up going to the Lakers. That's the fresh rumor. Yesterday it was JJ Redick was going to the Lakers. That's kind of been out there for a couple of weeks, but now it may be Danny Hurley going to the Lakers. And so we're seeing all video. New Cajuns showed up. They're having off-season workouts. I saw a video of South Alabama basketball players having workouts. Jerry McNamara, new head coach at Siena, they're having workouts. And I'm sure UConn's doing the same thing. So think if you just arrived at, stores and you're having your first or second off-season workout and Danny Hurley is already yelling at you and you wake up this morning and find out he may be going to Southern California. What if you're the high school kid who's, going to show up on campus, in 2 months and the coach that you committed to is not going to be there. So now you're going to have a lot of what happened with Nick Saban. You're going to have teams going to have, or UConn, if he goes, and this is still not a done deal. If Danny Hurley takes the job, you got 30 days to transfer, right? That portal is closed. The baseball portal is open, but the basketball portal is closed, except for UConn if the coaches change. Now, what happens if you get a domino effect where, 4 or 5 coaches change? Now, you may get one domino effect, if you will. Whoever takes the UConn job, say one of his assistants gets that job. So it may only be one. All right. So we don't know. But you're going to have chaos now. You could have chaos if all of these teams end up getting new head coaches, right? I mean, Duke hired their assistant. The Qs hired their assistant, right? So there was no further domino effect. Even the Tar Heels, a few years ago, Hubert Davis, right? So there's no domino effect when that happens. But it's not only the players creating the chaos is the point, right? The players are just getting a little tiny piece of it. Here's the thing that is interesting that I don't know if most people know about. I'm not even sure I knew about this, but for the most part, like the Lakers are cheap, right? The Lakers, don't pay the most money for their coaches. They are notoriously cheap. That's a thing, right? So I don't know how much, Dr. Buss had a lot of other business interests, but I don't know if the kids, I don't know if Jeannie Buss has a lot of other business interests other than the Lakers. So this is not like Steve Ballmer and his couple of $1 billion worth of Microsoft, multi-billion dollars worth of Microsoft. So they are notoriously cheap. And so obviously if Hurley is thinking about this, he's thinking about it in twofold. What can I do with LeBron there for a year or two, right? He's not going to be there for 4 or 5 years. And if he gets his kid, he gets his kid. That's easy. That's where Danny Hurley can come in and coach the kid, right? And say, hey, you're not quite ready, but we'll get you ready. But obviously, Danny Hurley, and this is what Brian Windhorst reported this morning. I heard it on Sportsmanlike that, LeBron has told him, you got to prepare the coaching job for beyond me. Whatever we do here for the next year or two is one thing, but and that's what Danny Hurley has to look at. Because they'll still have Anthony Davis, I guess. I'm not big on building a franchise around Anthony Davis. That hasn't really gone well in other years. But there is, chaos could be coming to college basketball, and it's June. And it's not the players doing it, it's the coaches. So now, after forever, the players are being blamed for the coaches creating the chaos. That chaos usually happens in March and April when teams are making their choices. But now it's June, just like usually in college football, the chaos is created in December, and it's usually done by the new year. But Saban did it just because of the semifinals and the national championship, and he did it trying not to take away from the games, but he did it, and you got a bunch of chaos. All right. Again, a couple of things with Kane Womack. Again, he got the defensive coordinator job. A couple of things with that. No one's blaming anybody for doubling his salary, and I think he went from $800,000 to $1.6 million. Okay, so no one's blaming him for doing that. Couple of things with that. I was told when he got the South Alabama job. Now, he was the youngest coach in Division I, I think, for a couple of years. His first year and his second year with South Alabama, he was the youngest coach. I was told that if it was all about the money for him, and he probably got a raise in there somewhere, right? Like after the 10-win season, he probably got a raise. If it was all about the money, he would have become the LSU defensive coordinator in 19. The problem was, or in not 19, I'm sorry. Is it 20? He's only there for 3 years, right? So 21, 22, 23. Okay. So 21. He would, but the problem is that Orgeron, not 19, that's when they won the national championship. Orgeron was out the door, and everybody kind of knew that. So he was offered more money to be LSU's defensive coordinator. But he wanted the head coaching experience. Here's the problem that he ran into. Mississippi kid, right? Mississippi State, he was not even a thought in Mississippi State hiring him as their new head coach. Jeff Lebby got the job. And I brought this up before. Jeff Lebby at Mississippi State, 0 head coaching experience. None. Nada. Nothing. So he goes from OU's offensive coordinator to Mississippi State's head football coach. That's when Kane Womack realized, okay, I'll make more money as a defensive coordinator or maybe co-defensive coordinator for Alabama. But the point is, I'm at a Power 5 coordinating position. He very well could get a head coaching job at a Power 5 school next year because he's got head coaching experience now to go with this. So that was the problem that he ran into, is that Power 5 schools would rather have coordinators from Power 5 teams than plucking a G5 head coach. All right. And this year didn't go quite as well as I thought it should have for South Alabama for whatever reasons. I'm not there anymore, so I'm not sure what the big reasons were. But I did have a 10-win season. It did end up, well, interesting, right? They did win a bowl game in their home stadium, which is kind of cool. But then there was a cheap shot from the other team. So crazy. Nonetheless, this is where we are. Danny Hurley is being targeted by the Lakers. Kind of odd that it's coming out now, because usually you don't want these things to happen when, the finals are going on. You kind of want to focus on that. Also, JJ Redick is calling the finals. So he can't be the Lakers coach and call the finals. That's going to be a little biased, right? Although he could be able to do that. That's one thing, is it shouldn't have to do with that, but when you're doing it as a broadcaster, It's one thing, but now everything that he says is going to be through the lens of, well, he's the Lakers coach. Also, maybe tampering. I got to cut down on them. Cigarettes. Cut it down to half a pack a day. All right. So the other news yesterday, we're getting hockey in Monroe. Again, this feels like, I don't know. It is the minor league of all minor leagues, going up to Monroe. And they're talking about hockey in New Orleans. Come on. And I hope that's not going to be based on if Monroe does it. All right. Monroe Moccasins, which is pretty cool. Secure your spot for every heart-pounding moment of Monroe Moccasins season. Our exclusive season tickets available. Let's see what they cost. I don't know what's going on. $585 for one ticket. Seems like a lot. Payment plan is $665, so you can save some money there. All right. Now this is, I guess this is, all right. They used to be up there too. All right. Okay. But this is the FPHL. Is that right? FPHL, Federal Prospects Hockey League. I don't know anything about that. After 23 years, professional hockey is returning to Monroe. Hockey's back on the bayou. I would tell you this, something that I learned back in the day. The more options, the more sporting options there are, the better it is for everybody, right? I was in Wichita, and they had indoor soccer and hockey. And it gives businesses to be there all season. Now think about this. If they're playing in the Monroe Civic Center, I don't know if that's where the basketball team plays, but now you have an opportunity to market yourself to the hockey team and the basketball team. It can be a big part of it. The football team, the baseball team, softball team, we shall see. Where it is, what are the mud bugs? Our guy, that's a Shreveport Mud Bugs. Is that the same league? Our guy, Chet Yoder, Shreveport, right there, the Mud Bugs. Okay, let's see what we got here. Is that the same count? No, that's the North American Hockey League. Hell, I used to be able to keep track of these. Like the AHL used to be AAA. So I don't know that. Yeah, the League of Opportunity. I don't know what level. And I will say this. They love the Mudbugs up in Shreveport. They draw incredibly well. All right. They are ingrained in the community. They're usually a pretty good hockey team too. So they're usually playoff bound. I don't know if they've ever won it since Chet's been up there, but they do a good job. The FPHL. Let's see here. FPHL. All right. Let's see where they are. Single A minor professional hockey. Okay. Let's see. Standings. Let's see where the teams are. Well, first of all, you do have you got Baton Rouge. I'm not sure you even knew that. They did not win. No. Yeah, they were not very good. Maybe that's why we didn't know that. There are 11 teams in it right now. See, Binghamton, that's New York, right? They're the Black Bears now. That used to be like the AHL. That used to be AAA hockey. Right? You got them in Watertown. Is that like upstate New York? The Watertown Wolves. I don't know if that's. Let me see. Isn't there a Watertown, Connecticut? I don't know. Let's see the teams. Directory. Let's see here. So it is Binghamton, New York. All right. It's Danbury, Connecticut. Elmira's got a team. The Watertown Wolves are Watertown, New York. That's basically on the border of Canada. You're down in Winston-Salem with Carolina, Columbus River Dragons, Mississippi Seawolves. You got a team that's in Michigan, Port Huron, Michigan, Fraser, Michigan, and Baton Rouge, Zydeco. So, can you guys, do they draw? Does the hockey team draw? I mean, let's be honest. That's going to be that's going to be tough. Broadcast information. All right. They're on YouTube, and some games can also be streamed locally to WBRZ and WBTR. All right. So I don't, you're talking about, LSU men's basketball, which have been struggling. And then obviously the women's basketball, which has not been struggling. And that's baseball. So that's tough to find. Tough to find a niche. Could look for attendance, but I don't know if that's team stats. I don't know if we're going to find attendance here. I just haven't heard of the Baton Rouge Zydeco. That's a me problem. I'll admit that. I don't know if they draw or not. Can I get a hat? We could not get a hat from the Voodoo. I can't tell you how shocked I am with that. They don't look like they got hats here either. Jerseys, hoodies, sweatshirts, long sleeve, short sleeve. Goodness gracious. Can't get a hat? Is that a thing? You can't get hats? Zydeco hockey. No, I got a bunch of shirts. No hats. Youth. I got some, not all that expensive. I mean, the moccasins probably don't have anything yet, right? Monroe moccasins. Wikipedia, hockey is back. Oh, vintage hockey. Let me just. Oh, moccasins hockey. It's moccasinshockey.com. All right. They do not seem to have any merchandise yet. You would have thought you would do that. You want people to have merchandise. It doesn't have to be a lot. Probably just give away 100 t-shirts or something like that. And when you got a moccasin, I think that's a cool, you can do a lot of good things with that. So, all right. But they're talking about hockey in New Orleans. Are we sure about that? Right. We're kind of going through a time where, I'm not convinced that the Saints are going to be sold out every game. Well, I'll rephrase that. I'm not sure every seat's going to be taken for Saints games this year. They start out 1-3. Saints fans are fickle. All right. Right. The Pelicans are, they never made that big push with Zion. They're getting left behind, right, with, the Thunder and the T-Wolves ahead of them. And then you got the Thunder behind them coming up. Or not the Thunder, the Spurs. And for big games, the crowd is there. It does pretty well, but I'm not sure if every seat is taken up. And we're going to bring hockey to New Orleans. I'm not sure that's going to fly. And remember, that still has, I'm sure there are people in New Orleans who do go to LSU baseball games on it. It's a Friday night thing. Maybe they're not going to midweek ball games from New Orleans, but I bet you they're going to, weekend games Although Saturday they usually play at night, right? For TV purposes, Sunday's afternoon. So that's still competition. I'm not sure New Orleans businesses could support a hockey team. Like, what is the industry in New Orleans these days? It's all touristy, right? That's what it is. A little Sazerac, but it's all touristy. Greg popping in, maybe bring one to Mobile. They're tearing down the Civic Center in Mobile, Greg, right? And then our guys, Sunbelt Syndicate, who did a recap for baseball last night, they love some hockey as well. Hockey did okay here for a minute. Kind of typical Lafayette, right? When the hockey team started, they were selling out the Cajun Dome. And for whatever reason, in typical Lafayette fashion, they, lose interest. Then they brought it back, and it did okay. And then they had to stop because the Cajun Dome was going under refrigeration, and then it got tossed in. That was the end of that. So minor league hockey can be fun. That is not a cheap sport, right? That is an expensive sport. Yeah, not great. It's tough. So we'll see. I wish them the best. Again, anything that you can get more businesses involved, and people think it's spreading too thin. It really doesn't. It gives businesses more opportunities to have a year-round marketing plan, and with sports being part of it. So now you can do Monroe football and Monroe basketball. Monroe basketball doesn't. They play in their own arena, right? Monroe Warhawks. I could be wrong about that. Basketball arena. It's not the best of all arenas. Fant Ewing Stadium, Fant Ewing Coliseum. So they play on campus. It is really big. And I don't think the fans are close to the court. They're kind of separated from the court. But I just think, that's always good. But it is don't kid yourself. It's going to be an uphill climb. So we'll see. All right. It is. At least it's Class A. Are they affiliated? I don't even know that. Let's see here. FPHL. Let's see here. News. Okay, here we go. Oh, do they have attendance here? No. About FPHL. All right. The league is located in Binghamton. This letter is from 2022. They welcomed back to Elmira. That was back in 2022. So maybe that's for the 2023 season. It appears that it is growing. I will say that. We are dedicated to the growth of professional hockey at the Class A level and creating a developmental ground not only for elite hockey players, but for officials, coaches, and front office staff as well. We will strive to build dedicated, customer-oriented staff and provide fans, advertisers, sponsors, and partners with great value while operating an acceptable profit targets. Yeah, let's see. We don't see anything else. All right. It doesn't say if they are. Let me see. Well, let's try this. Let's do New York Rangers minor league teams. All right. The New York Rangers have multiple minor league teams, including the Hartford Wolfpack and the Bloomington Bison. Let's see here. Got to go to Wikipedia. This is going to be the all-time thing. We don't want the all-time deal. I just want to see what they are now. NHL minor league team affiliates breakdown. Flow Hockey TV. All right, let's see what we got here. This was in January of 2023. A list of all 32 NHL teams, minor league affiliates. So the AHL is still AAA, and you have the ECHL, which I think is Trenton back in the day. So some of these teams only have like one minor league team. The Sabres are well known. to have the Rochester Amerks, which is really convenient because it's like an hour away. All right, so a lot of teams have 2 minor league teams, but that's about it. So these are not necessarily affiliated teams. They're not getting their players from the major leagues. All right, Pittsburgh, longtime affiliate with. No, I thought Scranton Wilkes-Barre would have been. I guess that's Scranton Wilkes-Barre Penguins. I thought they were Flyers, maybe not. So you still have the Wichita Thunder. Yeah. And think about that. Their ECHL team is connected to San Jose. Good luck with that. Syracuse changed. They're Tampa Bay, but that's not always what it was. It has been for a minute. So anyways, they get minor league hockey in Monroe. It'll probably do well for a year. We'll see. It'll probably do well for a year. We did see Adrian Moffett go into the transfer portal. I have not seen any Cajuns baseball players, excuse me, in the portal yet. That doesn't mean it hasn't happened. But these teams are going, excuse me. These teams are going, players are leaving now. There is a coaching opening at South Florida. And the only reason I'm paying attention at all to this one, apparently the University of Tampa coach, who's playing now in the Division II World Series, they're the number 1 team in the nation. And I've known about that program for a long time. Someone I used to work with, I played for them back in the day, a long time ago. Tampa, my nephew is going to University of Indianapolis, and Tampa beat UIndy. That's the only reason I know any of that. Let's see here. Kendall Rogers saying us ECU left-hander Zach Root. Root is a premier 2025 arm, struck out 76 batters in 68 in the 3rd innings. He's looking for some cash, right? It is what it is. So you got to pay for this, unfortunately, with the D1, which I don't blame them at all. What they've done, again, another one of those guys that kind of have just built this from the ground up. He's been doing it a long time. I don't know when he started, Kendall Rogers, but I remember he was here for the Super Regional, and I didn't even know who he was back in 2014. But he's been doing it for 10 years. Mark Etheridge lives in Mobile. So all of a sudden he shows up at a South Alabama ball game, and I'm like, hey, love to have you on my show. And Aaron Fitt, and they've been just doing a great job of building their own thing. And it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work. They they do a great job. Let me see, for example, you want to see this? So I'm excited, 50. You get to 50 right now. We're at 41. Not a lot going on here locally. But you can see the growth. I got to figure out how to get it to YouTube rather than just Twitter. But you can see the growth in my shows, right? We had over a couple hundred on Monday coming back from College Station because the Cajuns lost and LSU was still playing. Still had over 100 on Tuesday and yesterday. And so you keep on doing it. You keep on doing it. And it is fun to watch the growth. Jim Rome. I was watching Jim Rome on X yesterday. First of all, he started with 775,000 views. And as I watched it in 5 minutes, and I don't know if anybody knows Jim Rome's on X yet. He got it to 815,000. Now, I will say, I don't think there's 42 people watching this. I think 42 people have tuned in. So I don't think there's 800,000 people watching Jim Rome at the same time, but it just tells you, what it takes to grow. And if Sunbelt Syndicate, right? I tuned in last night and I was 1 of 6 watching, but I bet you by, 10 minutes into it, they had, maybe a couple hundred. So it is fun to watch the growth, from like 3 people, which would be my mother and nephew watching, to, people watching from across the spectrum. So congrats to Kendall Rogers and the crew there from D1 Baseball. And it was good to see him. It hit me as a passing thought, Kendall may be at this College Station because that's where he lives, or Houston. But I think he lives in College Station. And Texags is another one, right? What Billy Lucci has done with that. And he's been doing it a long time. That is, we're going back to Mansell, right? He was at the forefront of, kind of doing it on your own, and we don't need an outlet. And I would not bet. And we got the Sunbelt Syndicate watching now. There you go. All right. We appreciate it, guys. And even those guys, right? Sunbelt Syndicate, has it been a year? Has it been 2? Right? I don't know if I started it or what the case was. And then Noah Ferry and got the Sunbelt podcast. I don't know if that's, Sunbelt endorsed. But, as of a couple of years ago, like that's the reason we started Locked On Sunbelt, not because it was, there was just nobody doing it, right? And now we have numerous people doing it. Myself, Sunbelt Syndicate, the Sunbelt podcast. And so, the more people who do it, you can see the interest. And obviously there's some, the SMT guys, if you will, straight to the top for, Southern Miss. You got, Kef Giardello doing it with, Heller Get Bent. You got the ODU Monarchists, so you do have, JMU has theirs, Rage and Review for the Cajuns, right? So you do have these individual podcasts for the teams. And, if you can, the more you have, the more interest there is. And it's good to see. It's good to see. Because this could be, on a side note, this could be one of those years for Texas State. All right. This, you look at that schedule, it's just not that hard of a schedule. You don't want to get tripped up against UTSA. You got Arizona State coming the next weekend. You have a tough time with the Cajuns historically, but should be better than the Cajuns this year. You get them at home. This is one of those years where maybe, you have a UCF season, a Coastal Carolina season. You finish off with JMU could not. And you're going to, you start off 4-5-0. I don't know if they'll get any recognition for beating Arizona State, but let's see. Because someone who's got a weak schedule, like Syracuse has an awful schedule, but they could also start out 6-0 as far as I'm concerned. So let's see what's the game? They start off with Lamar. They beat UTSA. They'll get a little pub from that, mostly because they lost. If they beat Arizona State, then they're getting Sam Houston. So the game that's going to count, and it's on the U. And they get a week off early. They get an early, they get like 10 days off. After Arizona State, and that's on a Thursday. And so they're not playing again until the 28th. So they get a little week off after the first 3 games. Then you get Sam Houston, and then you get Troy on a Thursday night, ESPNU. So how many games is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If they beat Troy in Troy, all right, regardless of how good Troy is, if they go in there and beat Troy maybe the way they should, then they'll start getting some votes for the AP. And then, as we know the way that it works, you start getting in there and everybody else is beating everybody else. You're winning. You move up, deservedly or not, and everybody else moves down. And all of a sudden, you're 8-9-0, and you're sitting there at 15. Right? Whether you're as good as some of those teams, doesn't really matter. You're winning and they're losing. Well, that. It could be really exciting. And App State on the other side. Again, I'm not sure how good Clemson is. We'll see if they can go into Greenville and beat East Carolina. Right? It is a good opportunity for the Sunbelt. Anyways, we got off the subject. We went to Locked On Sunbelt instead of the Schulte cast. Let's see what else we were I put in there. Again, the big story is that Danny Hurley may be going to the Lakers. We'll see if that manifests itself. We had some other things to talk about. Well, this happened yesterday. Again, the Cajuns, I was looking for the Louisville kid that had transferred in, and like the Cajuns have like 6 guys. They got a whole new guys. Like half the team is new. And so, last year because it took a little bit of time for the team to mold from their tournament championship to what, roles were, right? Like Kobe Julian has taken on a bigger role. He was a complimentary player last year or the year before when, you got the big guy inside and Terrence Lewis and Themis Folks. And now Kobe Julian is the center of the offense, right? And Katinge ended up being that as well. But, now you're going to have, this is where, Bob Marlin and company are getting their first see. What do we got? All right. What might this look like? Right. I don't know how long. Can't imagine these offseason workouts are going that long for basketball. It's going to be a couple of weeks. It's not going to be, 3 months or something like that. They could be working out in the gym on their own or, working out to get in shape, whatever the case may be. But, it's kind of like, I'm not even sure it's like spring practice. It's just like off-season workouts. I don't even know how long they go for college basketball. And you kind of, all right, this is what we think we got. And then when we get to then we have an idea of what it looks like come the fall. I don't know if they're doing an off-season trip, one of those, male bonding experiences. Not the worst idea. We've heard that before when teams go away, they really get a chance to know one another. So, but the point of that is that we could be getting the chaos with Danny Hurley moving away from UConn. Now, and remember, it's not the players creating the chaos. The players just followed the coaches in creating the chaos. And again, for tomorrow's episode, I will find out all of the coaches. Off the top of my head, I don't know all of them, but I'm pretty sure about almost a half a dozen head coaches changed gigs because of Nick Saban leaving. You could very well have the same thing if Danny Hurley leaves UConn. Not necessarily, because one assistant may, say, I want this gig, but it's not the players creating the chaos. It's always been the coaches. Now the players want a little bit of cash. People don't know what to do about it, right? People don't know what to do about it. I keep on going back to the pro level, right? When baseball told us free agency was going to ruin the sport, football told us the same thing, basketball told us the same thing, and these sports have never been more popular or made more money. All right? I mean, did you see what the NBA TV deal was going to be? It's not quite done yet, but I thought I saw, listen to this, Yahoo Sports. The NBA is nearing an 11-year, now this is per the Wall Street Journal. The NBA is nearing an 11-year, $76 billion revenue deal with ESPN. And I'm going to guess that's going to look like a good deal for the media entities in about 3 or 4 years. Goodness gracious. 76 divided by 11 is just under $7 billion a year. Want to do that math? I don't even know if we could do that math. Let me see here. How many teams are there in the NBA? 30? How many teams in NBA? Are there 30? There's 30. Okay. I mean, this is a better deal than the SEC network. 6.9. I don't know if we can figure out on the computer here what is 6.9 billion. All right, hold on. Let's see here. 69,000, 690,000, 6 million, 69 million, 609 million, and there's 6 billion divided by 30. That's $230 million per team per year. Is that right? Yeah. 1, 2, yeah. $230 million. That can't be right. I did that wrong. Let me see here. That's not right. 69,000, 690,000, 6 million, 69 million, 690 million, and 6 billion divided by 30. Is that right? That's got to be right. Yeah. $230 million per team per year. Let's see what the NBA is. Well, let's just do it here. NBA team worth. All right. Let's see what the lowest one is. Probably the Pelicans. All right. The Warriors are worth $8.2 billion. All right. Let's see here. NBA franchises. This is Sportico. All right. See what the lowest team is. Again, it's going to be New Orleans, right? New Orleans is last at $2.7 billion. All right. But if I am, I'll tell you this right now. If I'm New Orleans, the city, and I'm looking at the Pelicans getting, obviously the players are going to get a share of that too. So it's not all going to the teams, but that's certainly going to help pay the players. $230 million. If they get half of that, it's 100. Say they just get $100 million just from the TV deal, from the national TV deals, and we got to work out these local TV deals. Like I see, FanDuel is getting into the naming rights, or are they buying the entity that was Bally Sports? I got to look into that. I thought I saw the naming rights, but if you're not on the TV, it doesn't matter. So they're getting $100 million each team, say, for these TV deals. And New Orleans is going to put up money to fix the arena. And New Orleans is putting up money to fix the Superdome. They're kind of stuck when they have to do that. They sort of have to do that. Although I'm not really sure where the Saints are moving. I'm not sure there's a big... Where are they moving? What, is Nashville going to get the Pelicans or something like that? I don't know where an NFL team is moving other than overseas. But, you know, whatever. That's a big chunk of change, right? We talked about, like, Mississippi State has 100. Mississippi State is on the bottom of the SEC, I think. They bring in $120 million in revenue. 50 of that is from the SEC TV deal. 50. Alabama's bringing in over $200 million. A&M's bringing in over $200 million. They get the same $50 million deal. But see how much it's 25% of Alabama's revenue. It's almost 50% of Mississippi State's revenue. If you're giving these teams out of the 230, and usually, I think in the NFL, the players actually, it's like a 55-45 split. Let me see. NFL revenue split between owners and players. It's not what you think it is, usually. Oh, okay. It is. NFL has changed. It's 52 to 53 for the owners and 47 to 48% of the players. That used to not be that way. It used to be the other way a little bit. That's a big percentage when you're talking about these kind of millions of dollars. What's the NBA split? Let me see what the NBA split is. NBA split between revenue, players, and owners. Okay. This is 2024. The collective bargaining agreement between the players and the league calls for players to receive 51% of basketball-related income. The NBA withheld 15% of player salary last season to ensure that revenue split was achieved. All right. That's January of 2024. So again, now it's like $115 million per team. And the cities are paying for the arena. So, like, they're paying for a new arena. Isn't Oklahoma City getting a new arena Yeah. All right. That's why billionaires remain billionaires, because they get other people to pay for their deal. I don't have a problem again paying for infrastructure. I don't tell me what the jobs it creates. Those construction jobs are nice short term, but those are not long term jobs. And there's not a whole lot of high paying jobs when it comes to NBA teams. The high paying jobs are the players, the coaches, and the GM. Otherwise, they're probably high 5, low 6 figures. Not a lot. We're not talking about a car manufacturer where everybody may be making the union high 5 or 6 figure gigs, right? Entry level into sports is not a lot. See, we're up to 62. We keep on going. And we're doing good. All right. All right. We'll see what happens. Again, I didn't see any Cajuns in the transfer portal. Anybody see any Cajuns in the transfer portal? Cajuns transfer portal. Let me just do Cajuns transfer. Let's see what comes up. This is in Twitter or X, whatever we're doing it. All right. Nothing there. I don't see anything there. All right. No, this is football. Top. I don't see anything. No, that's basketball. All right. So I don't see anything there. Okay. Thanks very much for tuning in to Schultz Cast. Again, maybe I just got to put the logo on YouTube because we're just not growing that channel. I got to figure out how to do that. Thanks so much for tuning in, Sunbelt Syndicate. Greg, we love you. Thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great day, everybody. Lockdown Sunbelt. David Hale from ESPN ranked the quarterbacks, and we went over those. Not a whole lot of big surprises. I would tell you that. But go check out how he did the tiers per team. So go check that out on Lockdown Sunbelt. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.